Hello everyone. I have already discussed about decentralized approaches as in the last class I have focused on participatory approaches to development. Today I am going to deliberate on the concept and application of PRA, that is called participatory rural appraisal. It is one of the significant gamut of methodologies which will help you to analyze, plan and apply your skills and abilities in resource management and resource mobilization of the community. This PRA knowledge of PRA is essential for uh, a representative of NGO. So here we begin. First, I will look into the evolutionary part of PRA. So in the mid 1980s, RRA, that is called Rapid Rural Appraisal, started using the word participation and participatory. In 1985, Concane International Conference was organized. In this conference, participation was used with RRA. New typologies were generated in this conference, one of which was participatory rapid rural appraisal. So this is called participatory RRA. This referred to stimulating community awareness with the outsiders' role as catalyst. In 1988, the team of International Institute for Environment and Development, that is IIED in London, listed participatory rapid rural appraisal as one of the four classes of rapid rural methodologies. So what is RRA? Rapid Rural Appraisal or RRA emerged in the late 1970s, and this method was used to understand and learn about rural life and conditions as an outsider. In this method, an outsider could get quicker information, which was found to be more cost effective than surveys. It was also realized by outsiders or development professionals that rural people were more knowledgeable on many subjects related to their lives. During the 1980s, rapid rural appraisal was accepted in many parts of the world. Mostly agro-based studies started using rapid rural appraisal. It was found to be very useful for an outsider to gain first-hand information and insight from rural people about their conditions. Then we see that in 1988, the Aga Khan Rural Support Program in India showed interest in developing participatory rapid rural appraisal. It invited experts from IIED, that is International Institute for Environment and Development, and with the help of these experts, participatory rapid rural appraisal was facilitated in the village of Gujarat. And these experiments of India contributed to the development of a new concept called participatory rapid rural appraisal. Subsequently, number of innovative programs were also taken up in India. NGO sectors and government agencies took initiative and trained their senior staff in conducting PRA in early 1990s. These people then conducted training programs in other countries and continents. They contributed to the spread and evolution of PRA and its method. PRA methods were introduced by India to Nepal and Sri Lanka. Trainers from India and later on from other countries conducted a number of training in their countries and continents. So PRA approaches and methods spread from south to north, especially in industrialized world. By the mid 1996, PRA was accepted and practiced in more than 100 countries. And at the same time, we have also seen that the network of PRA has also spread. More than 30 PRA networks were found by then all over the world. So, So when we say PRA, it has developed even the participatory learning and action. This is called PLA, which gives emphasis on empowerment, action, and learning from them. Now we look at the concept and application of PRA. So what is PRA? Participatory rural appraisal is one of the most widely recognized and established methodology of participatory development process. It has undergone several historical changes in its approaches, methods, and applicability as we see. Participatory rural appraisal is the brainchild of British rural development expert Professor Robert Chambers, is being extensively used in appraisal, analysis, and action, and it helps to analyze the problems of the community in their perspective, prioritize them, and present an action plan with the community participation. So PRA has been defined as a family of approaches and methods to enable people to share, enhance, and analyze their knowledge of life and conditions, to plan, act, to monitor, and evaluate. It is now a philosophy and the way of life which stresses self-critical awareness and commitment of the poor, weak, and vulnerable. So we see that PRA is the most commonly used set of participatory assessment tools. It describes a growing family of approaches and methods for learning about real life and conditions. PRA is still evolving. At one stage, it was an approach and methods of learning about real life and conditions from, with, and by the people, which emphasize on learning by outsiders. The prepositions by, with, and from then were reversed as analysis and learning shifted from us to them. Then PRA extended to analysis, planning, action, monitoring, and evaluation. So the philosophy behind PRA is that community members are the best experts of their own situations. PRA is an easy method to collect information about a community. To do this, outsiders must establish a good rapport, build trust, and then use different techniques and tools to collect the right and factual information. So people's participation changes according to local situation. Though it is a participatory approach, the percentage of participation, its type and quality differs from place to place, even within the same community. Hence, the advantages and disadvantages of participatory process vary according to local situation. Unless you practically implement all the techniques, you will not understand what or which works, or what kind of activities or which method will work in a particular situation and which doesn't. So PRA helps the outsiders as well as villagers to learn more about the village. The experiences of people who implemented PRA tell the local people uh, uh, that local people have more knowledge about their village. If the community worker who is an outsider takes people in confidence and explains the purpose behind PRA, convinces people that they can learn more things by doing this and explains its benefits, then people definitely cooperate. The community worker should make an attempt and ensure that everybody participates in the PRA, including literates, the women, children, backward and minority communities uh, in the villages. As an outsider, the community worker should always be eager to learn from the people. There is a need for PRA, and there are some important aspects of implementation of PRA. Before we look at those aspects of implementation of PRA, we will look into the differences between the PRA and RRA. So before 1970s, mostly the development plans were based on secondary data such as files, reports, maps, then aerial photographs, articles, surveys, books, etc. So the authenticity of data was doubtful. Survey methods was the most widely used method as it was easy to collect quantitative data and analyze it. But the participation of the people used to be less as compared to the participation in PRA. Survey is a time consuming method, it's not cost effective and flexible. Information collected through the questionnaire has to be analyzed and stored in computer. If the questionnaire is faulty, the information collected remains incomplete. It is impossible to correct lacunas once the data is collected. The major drawback of survey is its limitation of collection of the qualitative data. So PRA helps to collect qualitative as well as quantitative data or information. So we will look into the differences between PRA and RRA, that is rapid real appraisal and participatory real appraisal. So major development, as we could see that RRA, rapid real appraisal, was developed during 1970s and 80s, whereas PRA was originated during 1980s and 1990s. Universities were the innovator of RRA, while NGOs were the innovator of PRA. Main users of RRA was also aid agencies and universities, whereas NGOs, government field organizations, were the main users of PRA. Then the key resources that were earlier overlooked were local people's knowledge in respect to RRA, whereas local people's capabilities were overlooked earlier uh, in respect to PRA. Then we see in terms of major innovations, methods were the main innovations of RRA, whereas behavior is the main innovation of PRA. Outsiders mode is eliciting, and outsiders mode, that means the mode of development professional, is to facilitate. Main actors were outsiders, whereas main actors were local people in case of PRA. So we see that there are major differences between these two types of methodologies, traditional research method and PRA. PRA refer to the methods of data collection, analysis, presentation, role, behavior, and attitudes. In RRA, data collection is done by outsiders who dominate the scene. They determine the agenda and obtain information. They possess the information, remove it if they feel it is irrelevant, and analyze it from their perspective. Accordingly, they write papers and reports. They own the information. On the other hand, in PRA, the outsider encourages local people and allows them to take the lead. People determine much of the agenda. They are actively involved in gathering the information, express freely, and analyze the information and plan accordingly. The outsider acts as a facilitator, learner, and consultant. The outsider has to establish rapport, convince, catalyze, and inquire. He or she has to help people in using different methods and tools of PRA. He or she encourages people to choose and improvise methods if required. Once people start working, the outsiders just watch, observe, listen, and learn. In other words, in the whole process, the authority remains in the hands of the people. So, PRA has opened a new world for people's development. local people and outsiders play complementary roles. Every time you conduct PRA, there is a different outcome as it involves creative interactions. So before we discuss about the various tools of PRA, we will look into the aspects of implementation of PRA. Uh, PRA is a group of methods and approaches. Before starting PRA, you need to understand some nitty-gritty. Once you have decided to conduct PRA, the first step is to prepare a team of 5 to 10 people. The team should be multidisciplinary in nature. The team should include a few local people as well. While selecting team members from your own organization, you should remember that they need to have good listening, communication, observation, and writing skill. They would be ready to work before and after office hours, should adjust to village situations and discomforts. Uh, they should have faith in people. They should be keen and willing to learn new things, especially from local people, illiterate, semi-illiterate, and so on. Team members should be culturally sensitive. Selection of local people should be done carefully. Select such people who have good knowledge and awareness about their own village, have better understanding about local problems and needs. They much have good knowledge of available resources, and they should be willing to devote time to be with you. So before starting actual PRA, you need to collect some information about the locality and village population, like languages spoken by the people, economy or main occupation of the villagers, then culture of the villagers, social and political organization in the village. And this would give a preliminary idea, a very basic idea for line of enquiry and choosing potentially important topics. So before conducting the actual PRA, the community workers should select the methods and tools, pay visit to the village and explain the process to people and seek people's involvement and participation. The date and timing of PRA should be decided after consulting with the people according to their convenience. While deciding the location, next is location. So while deciding the location of the PRA exercise, the community worker or even you also to consider certain points like the purpose of exercise, number of households, program terrain, and the capacity of village to host the outsiders for 4 to 5 days of food, water, accommodation, etc. Then logistic is also quite important parameter, uh, and it is advised to stay in the village till the PRA gets over. So in such a case, it's very important to see the accommodation and facilities available in that village. You can explore the possibility of staying in the houses of local people. If not, the team has to travel every day. In such a case, explore available transport facilities and the feasibility. This is quite essential so that the team can stay in nearby city and town and travel every day to the desired place of PRA, or to even conduct a fruitful PRA, the food arrangement, space for working on presentation and notes, space for evening meeting and group presentation should also be explored. These are also essential criteria as a part of logistics while conducting PRA. Then there are a few important items which you as a NGO representatives or a community worker, if you say, should carry for exercising PRA. like rangoli powder of at least 1 kilogram, then brown paper sheets for charts and presentation, then colored felt pen, and then gum, cello tape, that's what cello tape. Then you see scissors, colored papers, pens, notebooks, pens, general stationery. Then seeds and counters, boards for presentation, and also you need to look at the substitute for electricity like petromax, torches, candles, etc. So these are some important aspects of implementing PRA. And you see that PRA requires minimum 5 to 10 days to complete, depending on the local situation, purpose or objective of the program. The information needs to be sought. Accordingly, one can select the methods and tools of PRA to be used. Then all the required preparations should be made. One of the first issues in starting PRA is deciding on who should be involved to get the best possible picture of the community. And once you try to involve all the people irrespective of their religion, caste, institution, social status, etc., and then you need to listen to everyone. Different perspectives will give you useful information, and then you need to listen for emotional, physical, and spiritual needs also. So before PRA, you need to meet villagers with open and frank mind, and at least a few days before the actual exercise begins. And then you need to build personal rapport. You need to identify villagers who are willing to share experiences, and then you need to show full interest and enthusiasm, and sit down with the villagers on the same floor at the same level. So these are some important tips of conducting a successful PRA. And you need to decide the suitable timings also for PRA. Okay. Then you see, there are some aspect like protocol. The success of PRA exercise depends on how you follow the required protocol in the village. Each village has its own vested interest, power structures, and establishment. Try not to interfere with them. Hence, it is quite useful to have a few meetings initially with the village elders, opinion leaders, chairpersons, and youth leaders, women representatives of the villages. This should be done a few days before the PRA exercise begins. This gives a kind of sanction of legitimacy. Legitimacy refers to participation of villagers from all categories, uh, either directly either directly by attending sessions or indirectly through interviews. Legitimacy is also for outsiders to move freely in the village, of course, respectfully and sensitively. Then, staying in the village with local people helps to break down the barriers between the outsiders and the villagers. Uh, so on the first day, you can even organize a few games in introductory session itself. Beginning with the games will be quite helpful in breaking down the barriers and also help you to establish rapport. Every day, some light games can be organized. You can make games an integral part of PRA. Uh, it will also help people to feel refreshed, to become more energetic, and they continue their participation wholeheartedly. The whole atmosphere will become friendly, and this will help you to bridge the gap between the outsiders and insiders. So, regarding the tools and approaches of PRA, we see that the PRA related approaches and methods continue to unfold. It's a powerful and popular method to understand the community. Thus, process empowers the local, marginalized, and vulnerable people, groups, and individuals express, share, and analyze the realities of their conditions and lives. This helps them to gain confidence to plan action and act on it. Most commonly used methods are discussed, can be discussed, like it can be discussed basically in two major headings. One is methods promoting participation, and second one is methods seeking actual participation. Now, in terms of methods promoting participation, there are primary and secondary data review is there, and it is necessary to have the background information of a particular area or village where you are going to conduct PRA. This information gives an idea about the different interests of people, their culture, and their living styles. It also helps to know how they have changed over a period of time. This information can be collected in two ways, either through old records, notes, diaries, or court correspondences, or through newspaper articles, research centers and archaeology departments, market committees, then universities, government offices, survey reports, etc. And this information helps a lot, especially in the earlier stages. For example, if you get an idea about where to go, it is from this report where to contact, how to clarify doubts and contradictions or even gaps in the information received. So you should be careful in using the information collected by these secondary sources and should check the reliability. So this is one method that promote participation, and another one is observing directly. This can be the most effective method if used properly. It also happens that we tend to be selective in our approach and we focus on certain aspects and neglect other things while living with the people in the community. If you observe carefully their different cultural backgrounds, their lifestyles, day-to-day activities, you learn a lot. This also helps to recognize their potential and skills and the efforts they make to solve their problems. This gives us an insight into the prevalent power structure and decision making patterns of the community. Then we have methods selecting actual participation, and those methods involves interview, seeking out the experts, then case studies and stories, transect work, focus group discussions, timelines, trend, and change analysis, then historical profile, various diagrams, seasonal calendars, matrix ranking, folklore, songs, poetry, wealth ranking, short analysis are some of those tools and methods. So we'll have a very brief overview of those tools. First is the interview. Semi-structured interviews play a great role in PRA. Open-ended questions help us to understand the locality in a much better way. Remember that the interview should be conducted on a very friendly, fear-free, you should not have any kind of fear, and informal environment. So this can be conducted wherever people are available, as for example at farm, temple and home, or outside the panchayat office. So try to interview people from different occupation like farmers, sarpans, elected representatives, postmasters, school teachers, headmasters, police, housewife, and so on. If you are interviewing sarpans or elected representatives, ask questions related to development such as transport, marketing, health facilities, drinking water, schools, and so on. So there are some guidelines for conducting an interview. Uh, you need to know the name of the village, community, block, district, state. Then you need to include the area, location like tribal, rural or urban, total population, the source of information, the nature of the village, nature of the area, whether it is a village, city, or town. Then occupation, how people make their living. Then power structure, who is the decision maker in the village. Major political parties involved. Then resources available in the village like educational resources, health and medical resources, cultural resources, entertainment facilities, religious resources, transportation facilities, housing pattern, drinking water resources, then sanitation, electricity, and so on. Then major problems like alcoholism, unemployment, untouchability, casteism, unequal distribution of already mentioned resources. Then drought, non-availability of grazing land, significant conflicts and tension situation uh, are supposed to be there in a questionnaire or interview schedule. Possible solutions to the problem can also frame questions. Then, second is seeking out the expert. Outsiders much remember that local people also have expertise. They much have expertise on various topics and may guide us about medicinal plants, underground identifications, then changes in source and types of well, agroecological history, kitchen garden, fodder grasses, and so on. So you need to ask people to suggest the names of the experienced and the most respected people in the community whose advice will be unanimously accepted in conflict resolution. Through social mapping also one can find the names of the experts. Next is the case studies and stories. This is a very good way to understand the practices followed in the village. One can prepare a household history and profile as well. A detailed case history can give us a clear picture of the prevalent crisis management and conflict resolution pattern in the community. Then we have transect walks. Transect walk is not just based on walking, but it also includes observing, listening, asking, discussing, learning about different zones, soil, land uses, vegetation, and then crops, livestocks, and local technologies, newly introduced technologies, then seeking solution to problems, and so on. Uh, this is a systematically walking through a village. It offers a profile of the village. So transect is an observatory walk through a village living area or the area surrounding the village, such as field, hillocks, forest, grazing land, and so on. Transect are used as prerequisites for mapping. It can be used to locate areas in the village which need to be developed. This exercise can be done with the help of persons who are staying for a longer period of time in that village. And they can become your leaders and guides. It not only helps to locate and pinpoint various physical aspects of the village, but also helps to understand and discuss with the people the backgrounds of these items, for example, causes of deforestation, use of common land, other indigenous practices, and so on. Then we have a focused group discussion. Uh, if time is limited and one wants to collect more information, focused group discussion can be organized. If it is managed properly, such activity often becomes powerful and efficient. You already know about focused group discussion. Then you have timelines and trend and change analysis. So it refers to chronology or sequence of events that has taken place in a particular village or a specific area, listing major local events with approximate dates, people's account of the past, how customs, practices, and things close to them have changed, changes in land use and cropping patterns, population, migration, fuel uses, education, health patterns, and the causes of changes and trends, etc., is quite significant and quite useful. Then we have historical profile. to understand how social structure and culture is evolved. This method is very useful before starting to work in a particular village. You need to know the historical perspective of that village. This can be done by collecting and studying folklore, folk tales, proverb, and poetry available in that area. By talking to religious leaders, one can understand the cultural practices and belief system of the community. Traditional management system and farming practices tell us about the power structure existing in that particular period. Um, Tell us about the power structure which is existing in that particular village or at a particular period of time. So here I have shown you the diagram of the historical profile. So uh, this will give you a basic idea about the historical profile of the village. This is based on the discussion with senior citizens of the village, sarpants, and other villagers residing in the village. Um, and this information will tell us the trends that have taken place over a period of time, changes that have taken place in terms of resource utilization, cropping patterns, then we have livestock, population, and status of women. Everything is included in the historical profile. So we could actually see that this tool is quite important and significant in terms of extracting information from the villages. Then we have diagram. Diagram is a visual representation of features as perceived by local people. So here I have mentioned about two diagrams, I guess. Yeah. One is Venn diagram or Sapati diagram or problem tree. So Venn or Chapati diagram is used to identify and understand the relationship of various institutions, organizations, programs, and their importance in and for the community. So the perception of local people about this organization gives an idea whether the development has reached to downtrodden uh, or not. To carry out this activity, different size of circle are used. Are the similar, the smaller the size of the circle, the lesser is the importance. In the other word, this activity can be used to know how many organizations are working in a particular area and their relationship with people. For example, cooperative banks, dairies, then you have sub-centers of PHE, panchayats, agricultural cooperatives, and their access to people can also be studied by using this tool. Then we have a problem tree, as you could see. These are the two Venn diagram, and this one is the problem tree. So problem tree is also a diagram that shows a relation between the cause and effects of different phenomenon. You can actually see the core problem, then root causes and all. Yeah. Then we have seasonal calendars. Okay. So this is the sample of seasonal calendars. So this is an extremely important and useful exercise used to determine seasonal pattern in rural areas. For example, rainfalls, farming practices, then employment, disease pattern, then availability of orders, credit and debt pattern, grazing pattern, then you see the breeding season. Everything can be studied. In a seasonal calendar, an attempt is made to determine the seasonal calendar as understood and practiced by villagers. So it's a visual representation of activities that take place over a year. Then we have matrix ranking. A matrix is a tabular representation that helps to compare one selected feature with another. There are examples like crop matrix, where crop grown are analyzed, then wealth ranking matrix, where participants discuss the social status in the village, then health matrix, when participants describe the curative methods they use for different illnesses. This exercise is quite useful when we need to compare and study the merits and demerits of a variety of items such as different types of crops, animal breeds, and trees, etc. And in this exercise, a visual chart is prepared where the items are put on one side and the criteria for comparing these items on the other side. So these criteria are to be listed by the villagers themselves. So it is a tabular representation of the criteria as well as you see the items which are to be compared. Then we have folklore songs and poetry as one tool. They are always in local language using local terminology, and this tool reveal a great deal about values, history, practices, who and what of issues in the community. Folklore songs and poetry can be a part of historical profile. And then we have wealth ranking as another tool. This is a range of methods to identify groups and cluster of households according to relative wealth and well-being. This is also a part of matrix ranking. This can be easily identify the different economic status of various families in a community, as I have already discussed. This can be a part of matrix ranking. Then we have SWOT analysis. This seeks to analyze the strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats of a community or group in their specific context. Okay. Uh, Now we will continue with mapping. Social mapping is also another tool of PRA. Before we know about social mapping, let's understand what is mapping. Mapping refers to the construction of a map of a village living area using rangoli powders or chalk on a ground or cement floor or on a large paper sheet. And certain features can be studied through mapping like natural resources, housing patterns, poverty patterns, location of the marginalized group, then cropping patterns, then territory of the villages, all can be studied and measured through mapping. It makes our observation more accurate. Through maps, we can get a clear picture of the village. It is possible that we may overlook certain things which emerge clearly through the map. So, social mapping can give information about social structures, availability of resources at a glance. One can understand the village layout, housing pattern, location of shops, mandis, then banks, schools, wells, hand pumps, kacha and pakka roads, and so on. Once the base map is ready, it is possible to provide or mark different type of information on it. This includes information related to number of family members in its families. I will lead you to the map. Okay, so here is the social mapping. Okay, then see the number of families having animals, number of families with illiterate members, their health status, then land holdings, economic status, and the number of families in number of family members in its family. So everything can be included in the information which you put in social mapping. Through this map, one can also locate the free land available in the village. Social maps can be used to identify distribution of population according to religion, caste, class, status, and so on. This information helps in planning different programs in future. So there are some useful tips for social mapping method. You need to choose common place for drawing social maps such as open ground in front of gram panchayats, schools, Anganwadi, and so on. Try to avoid exercising this activity in front of somebody's house. Then you require to involve people from all categories like man, women, children, socially backward class of people, uh, and one can have separate groups for men and women and compare how both the groups perceive the village, same village in a different manner. You can also make use of local resources to draw the map, such as rangoli powder, chalk, or directly drawing on the ground with the help of a stick. Uh, and you can allow villagers to have freedom to draw. So once the map is ready, you can copy it on a paper and take a photograph. Then in case of resource mapping, this map helps to understand the different natural resources available in a particular village. Through this map, one can explain the people the optimum utilization of natural resources for the development of a village. Resource mapping includes availability of forest, location of a river, then wells, potable drinking water, grazing lands, watersheds, type of soil, variety of trees and their location, and so on. While drawing resource map, you need to ask villagers first to draw the boundaries of the village, ask them to show location of wells, bore wells, lake, then dry land, grazing land, farms, and medicinal plant. And once the map is ready, you can have discussion on how to save the natural resources. So these are the tools of participatory rural appraisals. So participatory rural appraisal since its inception has been widely applied at various levels of development process. There are increasing examples from organizations at various parts of the world in the field application of PRA and its consequence. So we see that the use of participatory methodologies based on open attitudes and behavior was found to be more effective than the conventional approach based on the collection of statistics and the collection and soliciting of um, information from the community members or villagers. Uh, In number of studies, it is found that PRA has emerged as an effective approach and method to empower people, especially the poor, the weak, and the deprived. Rural development being redefined as participatory development stresses on people taking the leading role in the process and programs of development. Uh, there has been some micro level research done in Kerala, one of the states in India, on the efficacy of the participatory tools and participation in the local level development. So, Panchayat level participatory resource mapping, that is called PRM, developed by the Center for Art Science Studies CESS in collaboration with the State Land Use Board and KSSP, that is Kerala Shastra Sahitya Parishad, um, in the early 1990s has emerged as an important component of the Panchayat level planning in the state. An assessment, if we make an assessment of PRM, we will find that PRM has given confidence to people to participate in scientific and technical activities, and the information generated by them is found to be quite useful. This is a big step towards empowerment. Literacy empowers the individual, but resource mapping empowers the society. However, as technical skills are involved, adequate preparatory work on the part of the panchayat is essential. A technical support group needs to be formed to conduct not only PRM, that is participatory resource mapping, but the planning exercise as well. Then PRM data are not adequate for total plan preparation. A comprehensive data bank may be developed at the panchayat levels. Then voluntary agencies should help the process at the initial stages, but over the time their role should become progressively small, and development programs may be worked out on the basis of micro watershed. So um, there is an experiment also of Nanmai Gram Panchayat of Wayanad district of Kerala on the application of participatory approaches to development, which found that the participatory approach facilitates the evolution of sustainable people structure and system at the Gram Sabha and Panchayat levels, which enable local population to become creative partners of development process. It makes the target population capable of adopting and using appropriate participatory methods and tools in systematic and scientific manner throughout the development process. It facilitates the evolution and application of participatory methods and tools which are specific to each component of the development process, and it ensures people's participation at a higher level of intensity in the ongoing panchayati level learning, planning and action process, thereby designing people-centered action plan and projects for the panchayats. So we see that the participatory tools including PRA has received wide acceptance in research dimension and in achieving participation in the development. The NGOs have used PRA in a range of programs from care of psychiatric patient to art conservation. In all of them, the practitioners have found the tools of PRA in ensuring people's ownership than any other methodology of social development. As PRA offers an insider's autonomy, the practitioners develop new tools and practices in the application of PRA. The challenges and limitations of application of PRA invites for a critical appraisal of PRA and its ramification. With this, I will finish here uh, my discussion on PRA. Any problem and difficulty arises on your part regarding uh, understanding of PRAs and participatory approaches to development, whatever we have discussed as a part of decentralized approaches, right from concept definition, evolutions, uh, and also application of different methods. Then you drop a message in the WhatsApp group. Your problem will be addressed in the live classes. Thank you so much.